Here we've got 4 books from the classic age of handgunning, pistols, revolvers. We'll start out with Six Guns by Keith. And this book was written, I should say, by Elmer Keith, who for probably a good 40 years or so was considered one of the experts, one of the champions in the handgun fields. He was involved with the design, implementation of the 357 and especially the 44 Magnum, and he was for decades a writer for Guns and Ammo magazine. He also wrote several books, and this is one of them. Early book on everything you need to know about handguns. He was primarily a revolver guy. He grew up in the West. I believe it might have been Montana. It's been years since I read his material, so I'm probably misspeaking. But in any event, he was very much an old West guy who was living about 80 or 90 years after his time. He was more of a 19th century guy who lived in the 20th century. Everything about his game shooting, his target shooting, he was renowned for his long distance shooting. He was truly one of the classics. And this book is a reprint, and I'm trying to figure out the Roman numerals. It's been ages since I had to read them. I believe LV, what would that be? 1955, I would assume. LX1, I think that's 61. So it's presumably a 1955 original printing, a 61 reprint. And if I'm wrong on that, don't hold me to it. But it is a very good book, a very classic book. Six Guns by Keith, in excellent condition. A little bit of edge wear on the cover. The book itself is in great condition. And the dust cover is all there. It's in pretty good condition, but once again, a little bit of wear and tear around the edges. Okay, here's another classic. Ed McGivern. He was well known, I believe, in the 20s and 30s, maybe even into the 40s, as a trick shooter, the fastest shooting in the West. I don't think this has anything to do with the book. Yeah, this is the gentleman I bought the book from. I guess he just had this cut out. It's a calendar. He just stuck it in there. It has nothing to do with the book. But this is a book on McGivern, all his shooting techniques. You can see shooting programs, training law officers, aerial targets, quick draw, various quick draw leather holster rigs. This guy was incredible, absolutely incredible. His shooting, he was so fast, so accurate, and it was all done with double action revolvers, I believe. Classic book on a incredible man. 484 pages, and this appears to be, the book was written and copywritten in 1938. I don't believe this is a 38. If it is, it's in remarkably good condition, but a reprint date is not jumping out at me. Perhaps it's an original first edition from 38. I'm not certain about that. It's in great condition. Little bit of nips and edge wear of the dust cover, but the book itself is great, and the dust cover is in awfully nice condition for its age. Okay, here's another classic. Modern Handgunning by Jeff Cooper. And Jeff will be a lot more familiar to many of you than Elmer Keith, or especially Ed McGivern. Unless you've been into the guns for a long time, those two names might be foreign for you. But if you've been into guns for the last 20 or 30 years, you've heard of Jeff Cooper. This is his early book, his early work with handguns, reloading, basically all the practical aspects of shooting And another book, haven't read it. It's the first time I've ever looked through it. This was purchased as part of a library. Jeff Cooper, one of our classic gun guys. And you can see from the editors of Guns and Ammo magazine, like Keith, he was very much involved with Guns and Ammo. And this is a publication, 1961. I don't see any information that tell me otherwise, so I'm going to assume it's a 61 first edition. And if I'm wrong on any of the edition information, don't hold me to it. I'm not going to be held responsible. I'm not selling these as limited edition collector's items. That's just not what we're doing here. Okay, another one, Chick Gaylord. He's another name. You probably never heard of him, but back in the 50s, 60s, he was considered one of the high-speed, low-drag pistol shooters, combat shooting, and it looks like he's got information going back to the old Western days. And this is what the combat experts looked like back in the 50s and 60s. Not quite what we're used to today, but a lot of the techniques are probably just as good. And fast draw, the old Western type, was very big in the 60s, especially out in California. I think they cover a little bit here, but this appears mainly to be a practical self-defense weapons book, and it looks like MCMLX. I believe that's 1960. And once again, I don't see any other reference, so I'm going to take it that it's a first edition from 1960. So here we've got 4 books by 4 early handgun and combat masters from the 20s right up to the 70s and 80s for Jeff Cooper.